We've got new numbers to talk about. What I'm looking at out of Nevada, looking pretty good. What I'm looking at out of Pennsylvania, early numbers, ladies and gentlemen, very good. So what does this mean for Republicans overall? I think increasingly it looks, and I'm a little superstitious on this stuff, so I don't want to get too out in front. I don't want to get too out over our skis, as I like to say. You know, I'm from New Hampshire and all that. But it looks like Donald Trump might actually pull this off, which is just amazing in light of everything. I mean, one after another, you've got the celebrity endorsements that just keep piling in. Moments ago, we learned that Barbara Pierce Bush, coming out and endorsing Kamala Harris. More on that in a moment. But before we get to anything, I just got to share with you the very latest out of Polymarket. Take a look, ladies and gentlemen. You're looking at Polymarket showing Donald Trump now with nearly a 67% shot of winning this election. Okay, I mean, that's sort of amazing in light of everything that has happened, in light of the fear tactics, which have grown increasingly severe. I've got some real doozies to show you today. I mean, it's getting crazy, and highly, highly insulting. Anyway, this is Polymarket. He just keeps climbing over there on Polymarket, which is a prediction market. And then I want to show you this. This is real clear politics, okay? And this is where we are at this moment in time, where he's basically taking everything other than, in their estimation, Virginia, Michigan, and Minnesota. I do believe he's got a really solid shot at all of those. And in fact, if I were to take you back over to Polymarket and look at those states individually, what you're seeing is actually momentum in all of those places. Virginia, for example, you look at the early voting in Virginia, and what you see is that the Democrats don't have the same kind of lead that historically they've had, for example, on all those absentee ballots. Similar story there in Nevada at this moment. Ladies and gentlemen, it looks like increasingly he may take Nevada, at least according to some of the early data that's in. And again, this polling data is showing him up about 0.7% there in the state of Nevada. I want to add to that Pennsylvania. I mean, if he gets Pennsylvania, you heard David Bossie the other day, right, who was out campaigning on the bus in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is the name of the game. If he can take Pennsylvania, then he basically has this thing locked down. And while this is all very tight, according to the polling averages, it's not what you're seeing in the prediction markets. And I think that that's kind of an important thing to keep in mind at this moment in time. Historically, prediction markets have only been wrong, twice? Since 1866. And this could shift, but what you're seeing is a trend line that shows momentum with one candidate, momentum with one party right now. And by the way, it's not just the presidential election electoral college winner that they are predicting. They're also suggesting there's a solid shot that Republicans could actually make it a sweep. So I'm cautious on this stuff, and I think it's really important that nobody take anything for granted here. Nothing at all. There's so much, right, that can even happen between now and November 5th. But I think it's important to understand, again, where that momentum is. And I think the markets are telling a similar story, especially as I look at gold and Bitcoin and some of the internals of the market. As I look at the S&P overall, we heard Stan Druckenmiller, billionaire investor, hedge fund guy, say this just the other day. So, this is not coming up out of thin air. Thank you very much. And I don't know as any sort of celebrity endorsement or any endorsement from the likes of what's her name? The daughter, the Bush, Barbara Pierce Bush, is going to make any difference. More on that in a moment. But first, if you're worried about things, if you're worried about inflation, by the way, any which way you slice this, you know what? Even if Trump wins, you're still going to be seeing a whole lot of money printing. Okay, that's maybe a consolation prize for gold investors. If you're interested in investing in gold, I really do encourage you to go over and give my friends a call over at American Heart for Gold. Here's their number, 1-844-495-1115. They get a terrific offer right now. You can get up to $15,000 worth of free silver. Just a little name dropping will get you there. You can text Trish, my name, to 65532 right now. Text Trish to 65532. Again, this is American Heart for Gold. You can go to trishlovesgold.com. Trish Loves Gold. You've heard me say that before. You can't forget it, right? trishlovesgold.com for a little bit more information on this. But listen, right now, as we look at gold approaching new highs seemingly every day, the last I checked, it was up again yet today, there is an expectation that regardless of who wins, that's the one investment where you know you can be unfortunately, pretty much guaranteed there's going to be a continuation of money printing, even if we're able to kind of shape things around the edges, as Elon would very much like to do. Elon, with his government efficiency, Department of Government Efficiency, he really wants to get in there and make a difference, and I think he can, but it doesn't change the fact that we have so much debt outstanding. The Federal Reserve is doing what the Federal Reserve does, and then countries around the world are looking to diversify, and that's the argument, if you would, for gold. But turning back to what's going on in the here and now. So Barbara Pierce Bush, who is a lovely woman and went to Yale and has a very privileged upbringing, and summers in Kennebunkport, Maine, and the whole thing. Again, nothing against her. She's a very lovely person, quite shy, a thoughtful person. Well, she's come out for Kamala Harris. Now, I guess she didn't really have much of a choice, right? Didn't the whole Bush family come out for Kamala Harris? They're not really fans, shall we say, of Donald Trump. And so some people are worried, oh my gosh, is this going to hurt Trump? I don't think so. One single bit. Look at the woman delivering the news. It's like she finally got her hair done today. Special day, all spiffed up. Mika, so excited that Barbara is on the team.
This just into us, Barbara Pierce Bush, one of the former President George W. Bush's daughters, has just announced who she will back for president. In a statement to People magazine, she said that she was hopeful that voters will support Vice President Kamala Harris on Election Day in order to move our country forward and protect women's rights. She spent the weekend in Pennsylvania, adding that she was inspired to join friends and meet voters with the Harris Waltz campaign.
Can you tell she's reading a prompter or what? Anyway, she's probably doing cartwheels. I think she probably knew that one was coming. None of it surprises me. Does it matter? Short answer, no. Because the Never Trump Republicans were already in the Never Trump camp. I don't think that there's a ton of Democrats that are like rah-rah Barbara Bush any more than they're rah-rah Liz Cheney. If anything, this convinces the factory worker in Pennsylvania or Michigan, yeah, you know what? Trump is different. He's really not part of that establishment elite. He's very different in every way. Very different than Kamala Harris, which is, again, I think why you see all of these polls at this moment in time increasingly showing you there is one candidate and one candidate only. So what does Kamala do right about now? I mean, how do you counter this? When you've got the odds showing you don't have a chance in HELL, what do? I mean, you could make up stuff and say my own internal polls, this is what she said, show me something else, right? Because I have my own instinct and all this stuff. You can also go out there and start a campaign of what I think the president used to like to call fake news, about how he's just a really horrible person, like the likes of which we have not seen since World War II. Here she is.
Follow up to your remarks about President Trump's rally last night. Some people who watched that made comparisons between a rally that happened at Madison Square Garden in 1939 with neo-Nazis or Nazis back then. Do you see those comparisons? And can you also expand on what he said and what you said yesterday about Puerto Rico?
Donald Trump this is not new about him, by the way. What he did last night is not a discovery. It is just more of the same and maybe more vivid than usual. Donald Trump spends full time trying to have Americans point their finger at each other. Fans the fuel of hate and division. And that's why people are exhausted with him.
Really, because I kind of feel like you, Kamala Harris, are out there fanning the flames, so to speak, of hate and division. I kind of feel like that's all you do, right? He's so awful, he's so awful, he's so awful. Anybody who likes him is so awful. And we're on the good team over here. We're so righteous and perfect and brilliant, and we're going to fix everything. And if you dare to support him, then you're part of the problem. I mean, they go after him talking about enemies within. because, he's a little upset with the likes of Letitia James, Alvin Bragg, Jack Smith, and Fannie Willis. Right? They go on about him, complaining about how there's these enemies out there, like trying to literally destroy him, when I think it's kind of obvious that that's kind of what had been going down. Well, he's somehow wrong for complaining about this.
He's called me venomous.
We will fight back to your attempt to bring Trumpism to New York City.
He's called me disgraceful.
Of the fact that they stole the Supreme Court seat. An illegitimate president and an illegitimate member of the United States Supreme Court.
He's called me radical.
Listen, yes. We know he's crazy. Yes. We know he doesn't have a sound mind. Yes. We know he's out of control. Yes. We know he's losing it. Yes. We know his days are numbered and we will come together.
He's called me a racist.
We've got to stand up to an administration which is too male, too pale, and too stale. Too male, too pale, and too stale.
Okay, so who's the one that's divisive here? Really and truly. And why is he getting tarred and feathered, so to speak, for daring to say that there are people like that lady you just saw who's about to get her case thrown out of court with the New York Court of Appeals? Like that lady, why can he not actually say that she is a political enemy?
You talk about the enemy within. There's enemies, America's enemies outside. The enemy within is a pretty ominous phrase if you're talking about other Americans.
I think it's accurate. I think it's accurate.
Who are you talking about?
And,
the enemy?
I heard that. They say, the enemy. On the outside, you have Russia, you have China, you have a lot of different groups. If you have a smart president, they can be easily handled. I handled them. We had no wars. We had no wars. The only thing I had was ISIS, and I defeated them in like record time. They were gone. But I started no wars. The outside people, the so-called enemies, if they're enemies, and they might not be enemies, if you have a smart president, they can be handled. But when you have people investigating my campaign, when you have people, they spied on my campaign, how you understand that. That's been proven. But they spy on your campaign. The Russia hoax was all made up, and now it's acknowledged that it was made up. All of these different things. You have the 51 different agents saying it was from Russia, and now they all say it wasn't from Russia. Okay, so we were lying. Many other things, many. I could go. You just don't have enough time. But what they've done is so terrible. Who's ever heard of anything like this? Adam Shifty Schiff, he's a crooked guy. He's a crooked politician, 100%. And he's going to be a senator now. Can you believe it?
But again, he's a political opponent of yours.
He's not
an enemy.
No, of course, he's an enemy. He's an enemy. He wanted to put my son in jail, and my son didn't even know what he was talking about.
So Trump is making the point that, they're going after him with everything they got. They want to put him in jail, by the way, too. You heard from Letitia James. It's quite evident what she wants to do with him. So how is this woman, Letitia, or how is, for example, Shifty Schiff, Adam Schiff, how are they not enemies of him? You listen to this and you tell me, is this woman not an enemy?
I've taken on powerful interests like developers. I've taken on legislators. I've taken on landlords. I've taken on powerful interests in the city of New York because I believe in a good fight. And right now, what we need is someone who understands that you should not be afraid, not be fearful of Donald Trump. We should take him down. We should sue him all the way to bankruptcy. We should investigate his business interests. We should investigate his business holdings. We should investigate whether or not why he was once in debt and now in a position to purchase all of this property. We can do that because I've been trained to do that, and I will do that at the same time knowing the Office of Attorney General and its powers and its responsibilities.
Okay, so again, how is she not a political enemy of sorts? They want to take him down, okay? And now they're accusing him of doing exactly what they've wanted to do to him all along. And then the crazy thing is, when he's pushed on this and he's like, okay, so are you going to try and lock them up? His answer is, and he's told me this personally, by the way, guys, as it relates to Hillary Clinton, his answer is no.
I think they're unethical, but who knows?
I want to drill down on this question of retribution because against your political opponents, because you've had opportunities to walk that back. And my question is this: are you prepared to say now that you will not use law enforcement to punish or prosecute your political opponents?
Excuse me. That's what they're using on me.
Okay, so your stance is that they started
before you start this.
Yeah, I got it.
Howie, that's what they're using on me. I've got DAs. I've got everybody. They look at me. There's never been anything like this. The biggest case was the one down in Florida, and I beat it 100%. I won the case because we had number one, a brilliant judge, and a judge that moved rather rapidly, and I won the case. By the way, Biden had almost the same case, but he didn't have the Presidential Records Act because he wasn't the president. Just to finish. And he got off on the basis that he's incompetent, essentially that he's incompetent. And it was a strange ruling because they said, number one, he's incompetent, so he's not going to be, but the prosecutor actually said he's guilty.
Okay.
But he's
so you've heard that sound before if you watch this show regularly. I've been playing it a lot because it's just mind-boggling how they can try and twist and invert everything. And it's really concerning. The latest of which, I got to bring you some sound from today that just came out of CNN. We're going to get to that in a second. But you think about what's going on, and you think about this so-called deep state that prints money and tries to lock up their political enemies. I mean, that's what they're trying to do to him. Let's be really clear. You know, Bannon is just out. He chose not to testify. Remember that. So he wound up getting locked up, and he was locked up in Connecticut. He's just out today. In fact, I think he had some statements that he made. But Steve Bannon, who has been sort of on again, off again, but primarily on again, right, with Donald Trump, just getting out of prison. And he was making the point that there is all this momentum because people are really just sick and tired of this so-called status quo. Let's take a listen to Bannon, again, just out earlier today there from prison in Connecticut. In other words, they'll lock you up.
And our coalition is now going to include a wide swath of African-American men and Hispanic men. This is the game changer. I'll give you a lot of details about that, of things I learned in prison. Let me say something. If you're not prepared to be sent to a federal prison as a political prisoner, then you're not worthy to be in this movement and to step forward and try to save your country. You have to understand, they want to put you in prison, and they will put you in prison. If you can't accept that, then you don't know what they represent. They talk about President Trump. He's going to do this. He's going to do this. Look at what they've done, and look at President Trump gets sentenced on the 26th. Don't think they're just going to wave that on. This is a fight for not simply the direction of this country, but what this country actually stands for.
So he brought something important up, which is the sentencing of President Trump. And, you know, I played some sound for you the other day of Kamala Harris sort of speculating about what would happen in November. And she said, we'll let the courts take care of that. It came on the heels of Biden, of course, saying this.
It sounds like if I said this 5 years ago, you'd lock me up. We got to lock him up. Politically lock him up.
Yeah, so he's talking about locking him up. And Kamala Harris said this.
You know, because some people find it humorous what he says and think it's just silly, but understand how brutally serious it is. Well, the courts will take care of that. We'll take care of November. Yes. We'll take care of November. But it is.
Okay, so are you putting two and two together here? And yet, even though he's not willing to have retribution of the same sort that they're willing to put on him, somehow he's the one at fault here. And they're trying to accuse him of doing things that we haven't seen since the likes of World War II. I mean, this is kind of heinous stuff. And yet they're out making these accusations like it's, you know, just another day. And I think at some point, Americans are just getting super, super tired of it. But nonetheless, I want to share with you what this one lady said over there on CNN. And I can tell you, like, even Jake Tapper on CNN, even he's like, okay, come on. Like, are you really actually insinuating that he's going to put people in camps. Listen to this Debbie Dingell. She's trying to get the Muslim population worked up because you see a lot of people out in the state of Michigan that are of Muslim descent and are Americans are looking to vote for Donald Trump. I mean, he's had enormous success with groups that you wouldn't typically think he would be successful with, because I think there's a message of economic clarity that certainly resonates. And there's a message of clarity in terms of who's in the country, et cetera, that's resonating everywhere. So Debbie Dingell, representative from Michigan, gets onto CNN and starts going down this path. And it's funny, like Jake totally calls her bluff and she can't say boo. I mean, I would have thrown her off the set, frankly, but he's being pretty respectful. Take a peek.
And the Arab American community needs to be reminded and cannot forget. He wants to ban Muslims, he wants to deport Muslims, and he wants to start internment camps. And that's what we are busy talking to every voter. He's telling you what he's going to do. Believe him.
Internment camps?
Yes. He has talked internment camps. You know what, Jake? You may have to visit me in one. I get worried enough when he talks about what he's going to do to his political enemies. But he has talked about them in this with different.
Okay, there's no smiling, right? So she's being totally serious. And I think he starts to ask for specifics. And she's totally out of her element. Totally.
Groups of people.
Well, I've heard him talking about rounding up undocumented migrants, and obviously for that you would need some sort of camp. But what do you mean internment camps for Muslims and Arabs?
He has spoken about that in different audiences. I don't have the exact citation right here, but I'll find it for you. And he's been very clear. And I've said to the community, I'll never forget when he kept his promise that he was going to ban Muslims. Do you remember Detroit, the airport was shut down, not because there was an order.
It's like during COVID, okay? Like there were a lot of airports shut down. I mean, this woman.
But because people came from around this state.
This woman is part of the problem. You see, so they keep going on, and they keep saying this nonsense and spouting this nonsense. And by the way, some of the reporters out there actually just lap it up. Go over to MSNBC and you get them not only lapping it up, but spouting it out over and over again. Mika Brzezinski got a big chance on The View. Maybe she's taking over for, what's her name, Whoopi, sometime soon. Auditioning, I don't know. But she went over and she was on their set and she just gave a big song and dance, total hysteria. But this is all we're seeing lately. And it's concerning. I want to show you what Jim Acosta was trying to suggest over there on CNN. Remember him. But before I do, quick shout out to our friends over at Balance of Nature, one of our great sponsors here on the Trish Regan Show. Balanceofnature.com, code word Trish, 1-800-246-8751, 1-800-246-8751. I take this stuff every day, my fruits and veggies. It keeps me healthy. We're going into the holiday season. I mean, I'm personally pretty busy, right? Because I got an election, you got an election coming up, and we're going to be really busy here. I've got a live show, don't forget, on election night. But make sure you subscribe, make sure you share, all that good stuff. But it's going to be busy. And then we get into Thanksgiving. We've got Halloween, of course, this week, and then Christmas. And so it's hard to kind of really keep your health up and your energy up during those times. And it's one of the reasons I value my daily vitamins, my gummies that I take, fruits and veggies every single day from Balance of Nature. You can get them too. Just go to balanceofnature.com. You'll get 35% off plus free shipping. You're helping the show, you're helping me, and you're helping yourself. So look at balanceofnature.com. Anyway, Jim Acosta, whose claim to fame is being the White House reporter during the Trump years and really started to get combative with Trump in a way that we hadn't seen before. Let me just say, like, part of the fact that he could be that combative actually tells you that Trump's just like all right out there in the open, right? He wears his heart on his sleeve. Whether he should or not is debatable. But Biden would do this in a back room. Like, Biden wouldn't actually spar with a reporter. Biden would have his handlers do it. Same with Obama. But no, Trump was right out there telling Jim exactly what he thought. So, no love lost between these two. I want to play you a clip from CNN that just came out moments ago where Jim starts to go in on this. It's fair to call him a fascist. It's fair to equate him with Hitler. I'm sorry, Jim, but you know what? It's not fair and it's not right. And as somebody who is a student of U.S. history, I can tell you it's disrespectful to all of those that fought, all of our allies that fought, and to the millions of people that were slaughtered, the Jews that were slaughtered in World War II. And you're going to sit there and you're going to equate Donald Trump with Hitler? I can't believe what I'm hearing. I am disgusted by everything that I'm hearing, but tell me what you think when you hear it.
They're poisoning the blood of our country. That's what they've done. They poison.
Okay, so this is a soundbite. This is a soundbite from, do you see in the top right-hand corner? December 16th, 2023, out of New Hampshire. So he's going on about how, you know what, we got all these migrants coming in, and it's really not a good thing for America. And because he used the words poison and blood together, which, you know, look, I get it. It may not be the best in terms of precise wording, but, you know, he's conveying a message here. You're just not allowed to say these things. They can say whatever they want. He just can't say what he wants. And listen to how the panel goes after
He did report at the time, point out at the time that is the same kind of rhetoric that Adolf Hitler once used. Doesn't Donald Trump have sort of a high bar of credibility to clear here if he's going to come out and make this claim that he doesn't use that kind of language, that he's not fascistic?
I mean,
fascistic. Ooh, they learned a new word.
So look, Jim, in politics, you usually don't want a scandal lingering beyond 24 hours. I mean, I've worked on 3 presidential campaigns, a ton of Senate campaigns, congressional campaigns, local mayoral campaigns. I mean, I can go down the list of campaigns I've worked on.
Yeah.
And very seldom do you have an experience like this where you're trying to navigate a PR crisis, just to be quite frank. And when such a crisis does occur, you usually want the candidate to get out there almost immediately in an effort, one, to address it. You want the public to understand, like, look, we recognize that this is a mistake. And then you want to explain what.
Okay, by the way, I don't see why Trump would do that. Can I just say that this is the other side trying to accuse him of this. So what are you going to go back on your heels and say, oh, I'm not this, I'm not that? You understand how dangerous an accusation it is? Because what are you supposed to say to something like that? Oh gosh, no, I didn't kill anyone? I mean, come on, please, let's get this guy off the screen. No, the answer is, you got to go in with everything you got. You got to double down and point out how atrocious it is that they would even say these things. Here's Jim.
Is that who he is?
Jim, it's not. What I'm trying to explain is not about who he is. I'm just explaining as a tactician, this is how you should typically think about this kind of stuff. When you're in a situation like this, you need to.
But how sick that they're using this line of attack. It's just sick.
Distance yourself. You want to try to ship. Go ahead, Lulu.
Let me get Lulu in
not
there.
going to be able to finish it. Just go ahead.
I do have a question about this, though.
Okay, so this is the New York Times podcaster.
Because you're saying he needs to go back to immigration, which is his strong suit. But so much of the rhetoric precisely around immigration is this very, very negative rhetoric, demonizing migrants. You have, people that are close to him, the architects of his immigration policies coming out and using language that is reflective of the 1930s in Germany. I mean, this kind of stuff is problematic, not because again, it doesn't happen in a vacuum. So if you're saying he needs to pivot to immigration, well, the problem with his immigration stance, for people who are listening and might be sensitive to this, is that it sounds like it is anti-migrant and it sounds like it is, quote unquote, fascistic.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it a bit much to say?
Again, their new word.
Wait, sure, Michael, isn't it a bit much to say I'm offended about being called a fascist? I'm offended for being compared to Adolf Hitler when you use that kind of language. I mean, that I guess is the crux of the issue here. It just doesn't pass the laugh test, does it?
I take your point.
So Jim's trying to tell us he really is. He must be fascistic. He must be a fascist because he's used some language like this. You see, they're so upset because there was this rally at Madison Square Garden where tens of thousands, 20,000 people showed up, and there were thousands more in the streets to cheer on Donald Trump. And somehow that's not allowed. Are you just not allowed to use Madison Square Garden? Apparently not, because they made all kinds of equivalencies. Oh, wow, this was somehow, ladies and gentlemen, the equivalent of a hate rally that Hitler had and the Nazis had decades ago. Why, because he's at Madison Square Garden? Should we just cancel it? Springsteen, you can't have any more concerts there at Madison Square Garden because it's associated with something else. Listen to MSNBC.
But that jamboree happening right now, you see it there on your screen, in that place is particularly chilling because in 1939, more than 20,000 supporters of a different fascist leader, Adolf Hitler, packed...
Okay. Did you hear that one? This MSNBC idiot who calls himself a reporter is saying of a different fascist leader. They've gone full on, guys, with the he's a fascist. I'm like, this is unbelievable to me. This is unbelievable. There is no one there at MSNBC that is a student of history. There is no one there that is a student of economics. There is no one there that understands reality, only that they need to market one candidate only, and it's not Trump, okay? It's not Trump. So take a look. This is what they're showing you, saying another fascist, putting Donald Trump on the same exact platform with Adolf Hitler, who murdered millions of people. This is disgusting. This is anti-Semitic of MSNBC. There is no excuse.
The Garden for a so-called pro-America rally. A rally where speakers voiced anti-Semitic rhetoric from a stage draped with Nazi banners. When a Jewish protester rushed the
on
stage...
and on and on and on. But you know what? I'm getting kind of upset. So let's take a moment and laugh about how idiotic this is. It's easy to get upset because it's wrong, but it shows you how desperate they are. In other words, they got no shot at winning this thing. Donald Trump nearly at 70% in the prediction markets. So what do? They already tried racist, it didn't work. They tried sexist, it didn't work. So now he's a Nazi. My buddy Greg Gutfeld, who one of my former colleagues over on Fox, had a good way of putting it. In other words, this is an act of desperation, ladies and gentlemen.
Confident and you think you're going to win, do you call people Nazis? That's, to me, that is an assumption that you think you're going to lose. It's a sign of desperation. What is it if it's not? I mean, if they actually do believe that these thousands of decent people that are just coming there for a good time are Nazis, if you believe that, then you're a coward for not doing anything about it. And if these Nazis win, then what are you going to do? You know what would be helpful? Tell us who isn't a Nazi, right? Be specific. You know, I voted Saturday for Trump. Am I a Nazi? Yes. If you support Israel, who has warm relations for Trump, who actually named a city after Trump. Is Israel now Hitler Germany? I mean, that's the like-minded radicals at Columbia would agree with you. So if you demand people to take a side, then you should actually take a side too. I think that, like, there's always a risk of being in a pirate ship, but the first principle is the First Amendment. So a guy tells a joke. This is what kills me. You don't have to laugh at a joke to know it's a joke, right? But the joke is so different than the smearing of tens of thousands of people as Nazis. This outrage over a joke after you go after thousands of people that are there for a good time. And I think it's because the Dems aren't having a good time. They're not
having a good time. And they realize that, in fact, Donald Trump could win this thing. So what do they do then? I think we have to be prepared for that, guys. I think we have to be really, really prepared. And that's going to be a lot of what the coverage is in the coming days, because assuming Donald Trump wins, what do they do then? Are you going to cancel half the country, everybody who voted for him? Or are we going to go back to Letitia James, who's now campaigning to take over Eric Adams' job as mayor of New York City? And is she going to go after everyone who voted for Donald Trump? Is she going to go after every podcaster, every news commentator that has been for Donald Trump because they're trying to say that all of us are somehow bad? I mean, you heard this Mika lady married to Joe Scarborough, who's a former Republican, but then, you know, he realized who was signing his paychecks, and she realized who was signing her paychecks early on, you know, when they were just a thing. And she's making this pitch on The View about white nationalism. This is so gross, and this is so wrong, and this is so unfortunate.
I think you heard us before you came out. We were talking earlier about yesterday's Trump rally from hell at Madison Square Garden. So what did you make of it?
Well, I think it was everything that you need to know about Donald Trump in one weird white nationalist Nazi-type rally. And, of course, there's historic parallels to where and when this happened.
Okay, so she got the talking points about the 1930s, you see, and so did AOC.
This was a hate rally. This was not just a presidential rally. This was also not just a campaign rally. I think it's very important for people to understand that these are mini January 6th rallies. These are mini Stop the Steal rallies. These are rallies.
Quick reminder to go over to 76 Research, our financial website, where you can get a whole lot of information about financial markets and what stocks we like to invest in. Lots of different content there. Just a quick look at our top financial pick, up 24%, utility up 24%, real estate up 23%. You get the picture. It's important to put yourself and your financial future first. You can do that at 76 Research, just $1. It costs just $1 with code word dollar, $1 a month for the first 2 months. 76research.com. I'll see you there. So AOC wants you to think this is a new form of white nationalism, this is fascism, this is Hitler. AOC, MSNBC, Kamala Harris, and everybody else. I mean, she's got Beyonce, she's got Springsteen. I mean, it's amazing. And then it's somehow she's not ahead in the polls. Maybe because, people are a little bit just over everything. And Kamala, no matter how you try and spin it in your head, reality is reality.
Madam Vice President, can you give us a sense of your internal polling at the campaign and how that is making or influencing your decisions on what to do over the next 9 days?
So, to be very frank with you, my internal polling is my instinct. I let the campaign.
Okay. Maybe they should get rid of her instincts. Her instincts are what have led us to the situation we're now in, with some estimated 11 million migrants having crossed the border, as she was border czar, with energy prices upwards of 30% since she has been vice president. In other words, the economic policy is bad, the border policy is bad, and this starts to actually influence how people think about how they're going to vote. They're remembering the good old days when actually, it didn't cost that much to feed your family or to go on vacation. And so that's why you're seeing him now at nearly a 67% chance of winning. This is not that hard to figure out. My concern is, what do they do after the fact? You get the New York Times Siena poll showing them in a dead heat here. But if we go over to Real Clear Politics, increasingly all of these swing states, as I go through them, Georgia, North Carolina, Arizona, Michigan, all showing that, guess what? He is ahead. He is ahead there in the polls. And Kamala, no matter how much intuition she has about this, unless she's got some funny business going on, it looks increasingly like Donald Trump is going to win this election. Quick reminder, everybody, to make sure that you're subscribing to this podcast, that you're sharing, you're telling everybody, I am here, I am live every single day, and we're going to continue to stay all over this. It's amazing if he is as bad and as so against minority groups as they say, then why are Hispanics overwhelmingly voting for him? My friends over at the Job Creators Network sent this to me. They actually have a great commercial that they did in Spanish, and they were watching TV the other night and they saw this one. This is actually from a couple weeks ago. I think the numbers have climbed since then, but take a look. The poll that came out October 14th through 18th, USA Today, Suffolk University poll, you see Latino voters overwhelmingly voting for none other than Donald Trump over Kamala Harris. Taking a look at that Latino population and seeing how they're overwhelmingly supporting Donald Trump, you start to say, why? Well, maybe it has something to do with them wanting to secure their own communities. Might that just be it? Tom Homan, who was the former head of immigration under Donald Trump, and a friend of mine, has come on this program and my previous programs many, many times. He sat down with 60 Minutes recently, and I'll tell you, he just blew this reporter out of the water, totally out of the water, because he's speaking truth. He's actually talking common sense, and apparently they don't believe in that over there. I mean, they just believe in editing, right? Remember the Kamala interview that got edited so much, and they still couldn't make her look good. That's the amazing thing. Anyway, Tom Homan talking to 60 Minutes about how to have a better border policy.
We have seen one estimate that says it would cost $88 billion to deport 1 million people a year.
I don't know if that's accurate or not.
Is that what American taxpayers should expect?
What price do you put on national security? Is that worth it?
Is there a way to carry out mass deportation without separating families?
Of course there is. Families can be deported together.
Ouch! Ouch! But in all seriousness, if you don't have some kind of disincentive, then really don't you just keep having incentives? I mean, if you come here and you get 6-7 months of a free hotel and free food and free healthcare, I mean, look, great. You know, everybody wants to come here. But if there's no incentive to not, like why wouldn't you come and get all that free stuff? But how can a community, how can an economy support all these people coming in and getting all this free stuff? Shouldn't we be picking and choosing? I mean, dare I say, shouldn't we say, okay, you know, and not everybody has to have a PhD. Let me be very clear. Okay, so 1, we need to grow our population. God forbid Donald Trump actually talk about growing our population, right? Incentivizing people to have more kids. Maybe you need some more tax benefits to have some more kids. Gosh darn it. Well, that's one way. And then the other way is say, okay, you know what? We need teachers, we need nurses, we need dishwashers, we need house cleaners, whatever you need. You say, okay, we're going to cast a wide net, but you're going to come in through the system, and we're going to do this with a system so we know who the heck is here. And we don't want just random people coming that can't take care of themselves. Hopefully they have a family here. Hopefully they have some kind of support network. And if they don't, what are we going to do? And can we afford it? I mean, these are the logical ways to approach things, but that's just not what happens, right? Elon Musk making this super clear because he wants to make the government more efficient. He said this in a town hall. For some of you, you've seen this. If you haven't, I think it's worth, even if you've seen it before, it's worth hearing again because he articulates why it's so darn stupid that they keep adding IRS agents, yet don't do anything with the Border Patrol.
What would be your plan to make government more efficient?
Yeah. Well, so I think first of all, in terms of people sometimes ask, like, where would you start with government efficiency? And it's kind of like being in a room where the entire room is targets. And so you can shoot in any direction and not miss. It's like just impossible to miss because every direction is a target. So there's no missed possibility. Now, we do have a fundamental issue, which is that the government is spending far more than it brings in. And the reality is that all government spending is actually taxation. All government spending is taxation. Sometimes people think some of it is taxation and some of it's not, but it's all taxation because the part that is not covered by tax revenue becomes inflation. So you're either taxed directly or you're taxed by inflation, but you're for sure taxed. and so all government spending is taxation. So we have to reduce government spending overall. Like this will be forced upon us in the future. Yeah. Because already just the interest payments on the debt are 23% of all federal tax revenue. Just the interest payments. The interest payments now exceed the Defense Department budget, which is $1 trillion a year. That's a lot of money. So just the interest on the debt exceeds what we spend on the military. Just the interest. And that is rising rapidly. So it can't be like, you know, we'll trim a little bit here and there. That's not going to work. There have to be quite radical reductions in cost. Yeah.
You know, I just want to jump in because he actually is making such an important point here. I mean, the fact that we are paying so much in interest, right? So much in interest, it's outrageous. It's partly, I mean, it's a good, this is good segue, right? Good segue to our friends over at the American Heart for Gold because you just can't do this. Like at some point, it's going to be mandated by the markets that we start to shift or we change or bad things are going to happen. So it's one of the reasons I do like diversifying in gold. I personally diversify into gold. I personally have gold holdings. If you're looking to also help diversify your portfolio, your nest egg, this is one of the ways you can help keep pace with inflation to help keep the value, the purchasing power of your dollars. I encourage you to call my friends over at American Heart for Gold. You can go to trishlovesgold.com or you can text Trish my name, TRISH, to 65532, 65532. Just text it right now, Trish, at 65532, because it's your chance to get up to $15,000 in free silver for qualifying offers. But I want to go back here to Elon because he's making a really, really good point. I just figured it was a good moment to shine some light on our friends over at American Heart for Gold. TrishLovesGold.com.
You talk about the enemy within.
Forgive me. Elon, we need to go back to Elon here. So Elon was in the middle of just telling us how bad it is that we're paying this much in interest.
And America's just not just going to be great. America is going to reach heights that it has never seen before. The future is going to be amazing. Now, you guys are awesome. Honestly, this is like...
And I think we just need to be, if, please Lord, Trump wins, and the Department of Government Efficiency happens, we're going to be very open and transparent and be very clear about this is what we're doing. Here are the issues. This is the math for what's being spent and what and we're going to make it. We're going to make the spending lower. And if somebody's got a better idea for how to make the spending lower, tell us. But if we don't, we're going to bankrupt the country. And so we got to do something. And it's got to be some pretty big moves. Drain the swamp. Yeah. I'd say drain the swamps. There's so many swamps. It's like, there's so many swamps. There's yeah. I mean, it's just nutty that there was a massive increase in IRS personnel, and instead of adding people to the Border Patrol, this is totally backwards. It's like you can continue to remain a federal employee, but you have to go guard the border. That's your new job. It's like why are we spending money and applying resources to oppress the American people while rolling out a red carpet for illegals? It doesn't make any sense. So
it doesn't make any sense, and yet somehow when you say that, you're the problem. I mean, think about how wild and messed up this is. You're the problem? Donald Trump's the problem? I mean, this is like gaslighting on steroids. Seriously, insane. Reminder, go check out my shop, trishregan.shop. Go check out all the hats, all the cups, all the paraphernalia. You can help support the show and maybe pick up a few Christmas gifts along the way there at the trishregan.shop. I'm telling you guys, these are the crazy, crazy, crazy times. It is so good to have all of you here. I so appreciate you being here. I so appreciate you subscribing. I so appreciate your candor, your honesty. So keep those comments coming. We are in a live show, so I can see them. Good to see many familiar faces as always. Leave some comments below. I do read them all, believe it or not. I actually do. So I value what you have to say. I think that the next few days are going to be kind of dicey. We have to be very cautious in this moment in time. If you can vote early, you should vote early. I think it's really important that all this data starts to come in as early as possible. Again, I go back to Polymarket and I remind you they've only these prediction markets. This is a brand new one, by the way, and it uses cryptocurrency, crypto blockchain, I should say, stable coins, but crypto blockchain to settle these trades. I mean, you're seeing here nearly a 70% chance of Donald Trump winning. So we'll see how this shakes out in the coming days. But it is exciting, and there's much that can be done and should be done. And we're here on the front lines for you, for all of it. I will see you back here live on the program tomorrow. Thank you.